Hey guys, Dick's Report here, back to you with another video, and today I'm going to give you my opinions on the first round picks, and I'm not wasting any more time, we're going to jump right in. Alright, with Jacksonville taking Trevor Lawrence, no one's going to argue with this one. This was an easy pick to make. He was the best player in this draft. He's a day one starter. He's the guy that's going to help them right away. They can build that team around him. Zach Wilson to the Jets may rise some concerns because the last two times they've taken a quarterback in the first round. However, I think Wilson can succeed with the Jets because he was at BYU, which doesn't have the firepower that a Clemson, an Alabama, or an Ohio State has. So he's used to working with talent that's not as good as others. Yes, that was a shot at the Jets. But also the Jets did the right thing by building the offense around him. Trey Lance to the 49ers, this is a big risk by the Niners. Remember, they traded 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick to get him. That's a big price to pay. However, he was thought of as having the highest upside out of any of these quarterbacks in the draft, and if he does develop the way that we think he can develop, then the 49ers got themselves a great player. Kyle Pitts to the Falcons, I like it. The reason? I thought he was the second best player in this draft, and while Hayden Hurst had a solid season last year, Kyle Pitts is just on another level. This guy in the next 5 years could be one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. Kyle Pitts is a difference maker, and he should be a guy that shows everybody just what he can do right away. The Bengals taking Jamar Chase was the first big question mark for me in the draft. Not because Jamar Chase is not a great player, he is, but Penei Sewell was there, and Jonah Williams cannot stay healthy. So they're hoping that Jonah Williams is going to be their left tackle. And yes, they took Jackson Carman in the second round, but he's more of a guard than a tackle in scouts' eyes. And it's just a big question mark because Joe Burrow's coming off an ACL injury. The offensive line could not protect him. What good is a great receiving core if you don't have an offensive line that can protect your quarterback? Jalen Waddle to the Dolphins, I love this pick. They already had Will Fuller and Devontae Parker on the outside. Both those guys are at least 6'2", and both those guys can run fast. Now you add Jalen Waddle in, who can be your slot guy, who is also very fast. Tua Tagovailoa now has a lot of weapons to work with those 3 receivers and Mike Gesicki at tight end. The Lions taking Penei Sewell was the biggest steal in the top 10. In any other draft, this guy would have been a top 3 pick. This guy has franchise tackle written all over him. And the Lions already have an underrated left tackle in Taylor Decker. Now you're adding Sewell to this offensive line, along with now the highest paid center in Frank Ragnow. This offensive line is going to be able to protect Jared Goff. Carolina taking J.C. Horn might have been a little questionable to some people. However, there were people that had J.C. Horn over Patrick Surtain in the first round. So I'm not really surprised by this. I do like the J.C. Horn pick because I thought he was a top 10 pick. In fact, I had him going number 10 to the Cowboys in my draft. So I have no problem with this pick. If they thought that he was a better corner or a better fit than Patrick Surtain, so be it. I think Horn is a future Pro Bowler, and I do like this pick. Denver taking Patrick Surtain over Justin Fields might have angered some people, but I think it was the right move. Denver's got to keep building this team before they take another quarterback. And don't forget, they still have Teddy Bridgewater, Andrew Luck competing for the starting job. Add another quarterback to that room might have made things a little too crowded. So I do think taking Patrick Surtain was the right move. He was the best player available at the time, and that's what you got to do. Philadelphia trading with Dallas was a win-win for both teams. For Philadelphia, they got a great receiver in Devontae Smith. For Dallas, they were able to acquire some picks after missing out on the 2 best corners in this draft. Philadelphia getting Devontae Smith is really going to help out this receiving core to go along with Jalen Reagor, the first-round pick from last year. I think Jalen Hurts has got enough to succeed in Philadelphia if he does become the starter at quarterback. Chicago trading up for Justin Fields, I think it was the right move. They needed a quarterback. Andy Dalton was not going to be the future for them. And I had Justin Fields as the second best quarterback in this draft, and they got him 11th overall. If he becomes the quarterback that I and a lot of other people think that he can be, then the Bears made the right move. But they have to develop him. When the draft process started, I thought Micah Parsons was a top 10 pick. Cowboys got him at number 12 to help replace Sean Lee, who retired. I love the pick. Micah Parsons, if he works out for the Cowboys, is going to be one of the best linebackers in this league. I'm calling it right now. If he can develop and keep his head on straight, we're going to see Micah Parsons on the top 5 linebacker list in the next few years. The Chargers getting Rashawn Slater. I love this pick. They've got to protect Justin Herbert. That offensive line needed work. They knew that, and they get the second best offensive lineman in this draft. And some people had Slater going in the top 10. And the Chargers get him at number 13. Didn't have to trade up for him. I love this pick. I think he's just going to be a perfect fit for the Chargers on their offensive line. In another trade, the Jets traded up with the Vikings to take Elijah Vera Tucker, a guard from USC. I love it. One, you're protecting your quarterback. And two, it's the best guard in this draft. This guy, a lot of people think has the potential to be one of the best guards in the league. The Jets trading up for him when they knew they have to protect Zach Wilson, when they couldn't do that for Sam Darnold. It's exactly what the Jets needed. And yeah, they gave up 2 third-round picks to get him, but if he becomes an all-pro guard, it doesn't matter. I love the fact that the Jets knew what they had to do, and they traded up to get the player that they felt could help them right away. Mac Jones to the Patriots. I wish I kept that in my mock draft because I knew they were going to do that. And yet, I didn't keep it. I should have just stuck with it, but I didn't. I do like this. I really do like the fact that Mac Jones is with the Patriots because he's exactly what the Patriots like at quarterback. And I think he's going to start sooner rather than later. Zaven Collins to Arizona. I actually like this pick. I know a lot of people didn't have him as a top 20 pick, but to me, I think this is a good fit. You add Collins with Isaiah Simmons. If they can finally figure out the best way to use him, then Arizona may have one of the scariest linebacking units in the NFL. If those two can work together, sky's the limit for this linebacking core. Another questionable pick was Alex Leatherwood, taken 17th overall by the Raiders. Nobody really had Leatherwood in the first round. If they did, it was towards the bottom of the first round, and the Raiders took him 17th overall. Although, should we really be shocked? The Raiders are always doing something that is out of the box. They really do. A lot of people thought they could have gotten him in the second round. But maybe it does work out. Okay, so Miami got a defensive end from Miami. Jalen Phillips was a former #1 overall recruit that had to medically retire at one point due to injuries. But he was able to overcome that and play really good football for Miami in 2020. Now, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy and help out this Dolphins pass rushing unit? Jamon Davis to Washington. Washington did need help in their linebacking core, and they felt Davis was the best player available at the time. Now, some people do think that Davis is going to need some development, but if he can develop and become the linebacker that Washington wants him to be, then it's going to work out. But he has to develop. Washington's got to be able to develop him. The Giants trading out of number 11 and down to 20, I really did like that trade because they got an extra first-round pick for next year. And then take Darius Toney. I do see where they're going with. They want to get a compliment to Kenny Golladay. And John Ross can't stay healthy, and we don't know what's going to happen with Sterling Shepard. But I felt like edge rusher was a bigger need than wide receiver, and there were some edge rushers I would have taken over Toney. Kwani Paye to Indianapolis. I love this pick. I thought he was going to be a top 20 pick, and Indianapolis got him 21st overall. This was a steal for them. If he turns out to be as good as we all think he can be, yes, the stats don't really match with the talent. However, you got to be able to develop them. And the Colts, I do trust their ability to develop this kid. It does not surprise me that the Titans took Caleb Farley in the first round. This was the same team that took Jeffrey Simmons a couple of years ago, and Simmons is becoming one of the best defensive tackles in this league. Farley dropped because of back injury concerns, but if he can overcome that and become the corner that we all thought that he could be, remember, early on he was thought of as a top 10 pick. Then the Titans looked like geniuses for doing this. Minnesota getting Christian Durasol, I love this pick because they had to keep improving that offensive line. They got a center last year in Garrett Bradbury. Now they have another tackle to replace Riley Reiff. I love the Christian Durasol pick. I thought he was going to go higher. I think this was a steal for Minnesota, and I think he's going to be a starter day one for them. I do have some concerns with the Steelers taking Najee Harris. And my concerns are that, are they going to be able to open up holes for him? Remember, Pittsburgh lost their left tackle and their center in free agency. Is this offensive line good enough to help protect Ben Roethlisberger and open up holes for Harris? And speaking of questionable decisions involving a running back, what the heck was Jacksonville thinking taking Travis Etienne when they already had James Robinson, who rushed for over 1,000 yards last year, and signed Carlos Hyde in free agency? And then you have Urban Meyer saying that they're going to use him as a third down specialist and a change of pace guy. Why would you take him in the first round if that was your plan? Cleveland taking Greg Newsome does not surprise me one bit. Both Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams have had problems staying healthy throughout the whole season. Them adding Newsome to this cornerback room, if all three of these guys can stay healthy, this is a scary secondary that Cleveland has. The Ravens taking Rashad Bateman, yeah, I knew they were up to something. You can never take anything that the Ravens say this time of year seriously. And I do like the Rashad Bateman pick. Now, some people could say, well, why not Terrence Marshall when you have said they need a big receiver? Here's the thing, Bateman does play like a big receiver. So I am perfectly fine with this pick, and if they felt that he was the best receiver available, I'm not going to argue with the Ravens. There was talk of Peyton Turner rising up in the draft board, but not a lot of people had him going in the first round, and New Orleans takes him. They had to replace Trey Hendrickson, Cam Jordan's starting to get up there in age, and Marcus Davenport hasn't really developed as well as we hoped he would. But I thought there were other defensive ends that were better available at the time. Another questionable pick was Eric Stokes for the Packers. Not because of the position, because they needed cornerback help. Kevin King got burned a lot last year, and it really cost the Packers late in the season. The only question I have is, was Stokes really the best player available? You still had Tyson Campbell, his former teammate at Georgia, and Asante Samuel Jr. available at the time. People have questioned the legitimacy of Gregory Rousseau's 15.5 sacks in 2019. Remember, he was an opt-out last year, so we didn't get to see what else he could do. However, here's my point. It's 15.5 sacks, and Rousseau's got a lot of talent to work with, and I trust the Bills when it comes to developing their players. So, I think it was a good pick. When it comes to Baltimore taking Odafe Owe, people are going to say he had 0 sacks in 2020. Well, yes, that's true, but he also had 20 pressures in only 7 games played. For those of you who don't know, that is a lot of pressures in only 7 games. So he was getting to the quarterback, he just couldn't finish. And when it comes to the Ravens, they are one of the best at developing defensive ends. Just look at their defensive ends over the year. From Zadarius Smith, Matt Judon, Pernell McPhee, all those guys developed into quality edge rushers. I trust the Ravens coaching staff. I really do like this pick. Tampa Bay taking Joe Tryon. I love it. Because Jason Pierre-Paul is going to be a free agent after this season. So, for this year, Tryon can just learn from Shaquille Barrett and Pierre-Paul, be a backup for them, come in if somebody gets hurt, and compete for a Super Bowl right away. This is a future pick that the Buccaneers did. I love the pick. Alright guys, those were my opinions on the first round picks of 2021, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do next. The training camp videos are going to start those mid-June, so for the next month, I got to figure out what I want to do. Also, I'm going to leave a link to the stories that I've done for Sports Rants in the box below. Check those out if you're interested, and I'll see you guys next time.